Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo, Nitai go. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Oh Premanandi, Jaya Krishna Pad, Paramahansa Parivarikacharya Stotra Sad, Srimad His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Ramsi Gauri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nithananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mathura Dham ki, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Puri Yatra Dham ki jai, Ujjain Yatra ki, Krishna Balaram ji ki, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ji ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Radha Mohan, Madan Mohan ji ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. हरे कृष्णा। सभी भक्तों का आज श्रीमद् भागवतम कृष्ण में स्वागत करते हैं और ये भगवान विशेष कृपा है कि निरंतर हमें वरिष्ठ वैष्णवों का सानिध्य प्राप्त हो रहा है और आज हमारे बीच हैं गुरु महाराज के बहुत ही प्रिय कलाकंठ प्रभु। प्रभु जी का जन्म ब्राजील में हुआ और पिछले 27 वर्षों से भी अधिक 1994 से वे निरंतर गौ रक्षा और कृषि संविधान के विकास और निर्माण पे इस्कॉन में कार्य कर रहे हैं। इस संबंध में वर्तमान में प्रभु जी इस्कॉन जीबीसी मिनिस्टर हैं काउ प्रोटेक्शन और एग्रीकल्चर की 2015 से और साथ ही जीबीसी स्ट्रेटेजिक प्लानिंग मैनेजर मेंबर के रूप में भी 2013 से वे सेवाएं प्रदान कर रहे हैं और गौ रक्षा जिसे हम बताते हैं गो ब्राह्मण हिताय च। श्री प्रभुपाद बताते हैं कि गौ रक्षा और ब्राह्मण का सम्मान जहाँ होगा वो समाज ही प्रसन्न रह सकता है। तो विशेष रूप से गौ रक्षा के क्षेत्र में प्रभु जी सेवाएं देते हुए विश्व भर में जितने भी इस्कॉन की जो फार्म कम्युनिटीज हैं वहाँ पे भ्रमण कर रहे हैं और उन्हें अलग अलग तरह से
Translation? My lecture will be translated. They will translate the lecture in Hindi also.
In English only.
Yeah.
वर्णाश्रम धर्म प्रभु जी उसके लिए वर्णाश्रम धर्म का मुख्य अंग है कृषि समुदाय और गौ रक्षा। तो उसके लिए वे इस्कॉन में अलग अलग सेमिनार कॉन्फ्रेंस का आयोजन करते रहते हैं। यूरोप, नॉर्थ अमेरिका, साउथ अमेरिका, रशिया में इन समुदायों की स्थापना हुई है और ऑस्ट्रेलिया, साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में ये निर्माणाधीन है। मुख्यतः प्रभु जी श्रीला मायापुर में निवास करते हैं अपने परिवार के साथ और विशेष रूप से हमारे लिए ये बहुत ही अच्छा है कि प्रभु जी गुरु महाराज के बहुत करीबी हैं। जब गुरु महाराज इंग्लैंड में प्रोजेक्ट स्थापित किए तो कई बार प्रभु जी विजिट किए, उज्जैन में भी वहाँ पे कई बार आए हैं और गुरु महाराज के साथ में गौ रक्षा और गौ संवर्धन के लिए बहुत सेवाएं दी हैं। सो वी आर वेरी फॉर्चुनेट टू हैव प्रभु जी विद अस एंड ही इज हियर फॉर टुडे मॉर्निंग क्लास, टुडे इवनिंग क्लास एंड टुमारो भागवतम क्लास। So we request all the devotees to please take association of Prabhuji. Let us welcome him by loud and time chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Praise Kalakanta Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj ki jai. Premanandi. Hare Krishna. The class will be in English or will be in English? Okay. Okay. So let's do prayers for the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it's an immense pleasure to be here with all of you. You're all very fortunate souls. You have such a great association of such beautiful deities. All the deities are right here from all the yatras. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami is so expert. He brought all the deities here, so you don't have to go anywhere. Krishna Balaram is here, Radha Govinda is here, Radha Madan Mohan. I see. My first deity was Radha Govinda, so I'm always thinking of Radha Govinda, Radha Madan Mohan Ji. Gaurnita is here, that's Mayapur itself. And then you have Nishingadev, representing all South India, and he's also in Mayapur. So from here you have Puri, Mayapur, Vrindavan, and South India. So you're in the heart of India, and one can come here and get all darshans in one place. Actually, Lord Krishna was here only, right? Taking his study. So it's a pleasure to be here. You're all very fortunate to have had so much of his personal association and so much of his instructions. Because that's the highest of the two, is the instructions. And a lot of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami instructions were not spoken, were just seen by his behavior. The way he looked would solve so many conflicts. The way he would say, we'll manage that, would solve so many conflicts. So many times I was in the GBC room, and believe me, that's a place where many of you don't know the amount of anxiety that goes into that room. Keeping the whole society together, it's not an easy task. And Maharaj, with his personal presence, was always the force which would bring the room together. So you're so fortunate to have his instructions in the form of his writings, of his examples, and of his bodily example. The way he received devotees, the way he looked at devotees, the way that he cared for devotees. That was a unique contribution in our institution. His example is a unique contribution. And it's not surprisingly that Srila Prabhupada took him as his personal servant, because Prabhupada could see his qualities right from the first minute he saw him. I remember once there was a big tension in our movement with one of the manifestations of Krishna consciousness, which was led by His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj. And it was His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami who told him, why conflict? Come to Ujjain and we'll discuss with the GBC body. And Hridayananda Maharaj reports in an interview, he was the only one in Iskcon who could have bridged that gap, because he could work with diversity and create unity. So I'm just giving back a little bit of so much affection, kindness I received from your Guru Maharaj. And you're so fortunate because each one of you is a receptacle of so many personal instructions, so many personal associations, so many personal moments of reality. And we'll talk a little bit about this during some of the memories we had of D-Land. We had a great band, we were talking about this, and we had a great team trying to make a dream, which was not just a dream, but it was a very symbolic moment in Iskcon. Just like when Srila Prabhupada was leaving his body, he wanted to go back to America, to Gita Nagari. And we're going to talk about this tomorrow. It's just a little advertisement. So today we are here, and I took the permission to go back in the Bhagavatam. You're already ahead of time. Yesterday we heard from His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj about Prahlad Maharaj making prayers not to take any benedictions but to just serve. And it was a beautiful lecture he was giving. But I took your permission to go back a little bit just to connect to the topic that we are presenting. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanam Jalakaya Chakshura Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So let's read the verse. It says, Dharma Pandaikyana Charam Vichayam Upalavyagam Prichati Smashruvadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram Dharma Pandakyana Charam Vichayam Upalavyagam Prichati Smashruvadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram Dharma Pandakyana Charam Vichayam Upalavyagam Prichati Smashruvadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram. Devotees,
Dharmaha Padayakena Charan
Dharma Padayakena Charan
Vichayam Upalabhyagam
Vichayam Upalabhyagam
Prichati Smashru Vadanam
Prichati Smashru Vadanam
Vatsamiva Mataram
Vivatsamiva Mataram. Dharma Padayakena Charan Vichayam Upalabhyagam Prichati Smashru Vadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram. Dharma Padayakena Charan Vichayam Upalabhyagam Prichati Smashru Vadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram. Dharma Pandayakena Charam Vichayam Upalabhyagam Vichayam Vivatsamiva Mataji's Dharma Pandayakena Charam Vichayam Upalabhyagam Vichayam Smashru Vadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram. Dharma Pandayakena Charam Vichayam Upalabhyagam Prichati Smashru Vadanam Vivatsamiva Mataram. Dharmaha, the personality of religious principles. Pada, leg. Ekena, on one only. Charan, wandering. Vichayam, overtaken by the shadow of grief. Upalabhya, having met. Gam, the cow. Prichati, sma, asked. Ashruvadanam, with tears on the face. Vivatsam, one who has lost her offspring. Eva, like Mataram,
Mataram,
the mother.
mother.
So here's the translation. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull. And he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow, who appeared to grieve like a mother had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus Dharma questioned the earth as follows. So let's repeat that. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull. And he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow, who appeared to grieve like a mother had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes, and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus Dharma questioned the earth as follows. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The bull is the emblem of moral principle, and the cow is the representative of the earth. When the bull and the cow are in a joyful mood, it's to be understood that the people of the world are in a joyful mood. The reason is that the bull helps production of grains in agricultural fields, and the cow delivers milk, the miracle aggregate food values. The human society, therefore, maintains these two important animals very carefully, so that they can wander everywhere in cheerfulness. But at the present moment, in the age of Kali, both the bull and the cow are now being slaughtered and eaten up as foodstuffs by a class of men who do not know the Brahminical culture. The bull and the cow can be protected for the good of all human society simply by spreading the Brahminical culture as the topmost perfection of all cultural affairs. By advancement of such culture, the morale of society is properly maintained, and so peace and prosperity are also attained without extraneous effort. When Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bull are mistreated. That was the point of yesterday. And the resultant actions are prominent by the following symptoms. So today we'll discuss the aspect of Brahminical culture, and tomorrow we'll discuss the symptoms of not doing that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Ram. Hare Rama. Ram Ram. Hare Hare. So Srimad Bhagvatam is the literature that is supposed to keep us awake. So please don't sleep in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. I know that with so many services, so many meetings, when you sit, you start to drowse. But as soon as you hear Sarira Vijajao, then we are very fast on our feet. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is supposed to be the moment where our consciousness is elevated. Darshini Shinkadev Bhagavam Ki, Shri Radha Mohan Ki, Krishna Balaram Ji Ki, Shri Gauranitai Ki. Jai. Yes. Srimad Bhagvatam is the scripture which is supposed to enlighten us. And we have seen in this chapter, if you study it carefully, that the Pandavas have left. They have retired because Lord Krishna has left. And Arjuna is with a heavy heart because he's remembering very deeply how Lord Krishna did so many things for the benefit of the Pandavas. He's remembering when Draupadi was insulted. He's remembering so many things and how the Lord personally interfered. And as the Bhagavatam progresses, this chapter now is telling us how Parikshit Maharaj received the age of Kali. Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee. He was a Rajarsi, a king which really understood which each one of us needed. That's the qualification of a leader. He understands what your true need is. And what's our true need? Who can say? What's our true need?
Krishna consciousness.
Krishna consciousness. Confirmed by Motorola. Yes, Krishna consciousness. That's the only right that we have as a human, is the right to consciousness elevation. Because that will lead us to salvation. That will take us away from this material world. So that's our human right, our true human right, which is different from the animal right. Everybody has a right to eat, to sleep, to defend, to procreate. But the humans have an extra right, which is to elevate your consciousness. And for that, you have to be awake in the Bhagavatam class. And elevating your consciousness depends on your desire. Unless you want to elevate your consciousness will not elevate by itself. You can protect your consciousness, you can choose your association, you can choose the amount of energy you put on your sadhana, but it's you, it's me, it's us who have to elevate our consciousness. Because Lord Krishna, He respects our individuality. So He's not forcing anybody to surrender. He's giving us the option to surrender. And here Maharaj Parikshit, he's remembering Lord Krishna. And then the sages say, but if he is touching such transcendental topics, why is now a topic about a cow and a bull being mistreated, being appreciated by the sadhus of Naimisharanya? Why is this topic being brought up to our attention? When really what we want is to focus our meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord. And this verse starts with a very good hint. The bull is a representative of Dharma. And what is Dharma? I'm going to ask someone very close to me. What is Dharma?
The principles which are given by Lord Krishna himself for conduction of the affairs of the world.
The principles given by Krishna himself to conduct the affairs of the nature. I'm complimenting your answer. Dharma is how things work. Dharma is how anything on this universe will work. So Dharma means doing that which should be done. Worshipping the Lord not because you get some reward, but because it's your Dharma, it's your duty to worship the Lord, because He is the Lord and we are the servants. So that was the notion that Prabhupada is bringing. Pure devotional service is not asking anything from the Lord, is giving the Lord service. And that was the point of yesterday's class of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. We should give to Krishna, not bargain from Krishna. So that's the first Dharma principle. So the bull is the representative of that. And he's being beaten up. And the cow is a representative of earth. And you may ask, what is the connection between the earth and Krishna consciousness? The earth is a material place in this universe, and Krishna consciousness is a transcendental level of existence, of consciousness. So what is the connection? Why is this topic being brought to the Srimad Bhagavatam? Isn't it? Well, if you analyze, after this class is finished, all of you is going to be very eager to take prasadam, right? And where does that prasadam come from? The earth. So we can only be maintained by the grace of the earth. Humanity and humus have the same root word. Humus is that black substance which is finished when you compose the good soil. And that is giving nutrition to everyone. So the Vedic concept is that the farmers are supposed to give nutrition to humanity, to be able to take advantage from the Brahminical class and enlighten their consciousness, and therefore transcend this material world. So this verse is bringing the aspect of cows, Krishna, and Dharma. They're connecting the 3 points. And we can start by reading a small description how Krishna is doing this in his planet. In a little book called, I love this book, it's called Vraj Vilas Stava by Raghunath Das Goswami. In his book, he is telling us what Krishna does in Vrindavan. And he says, the hoofs of Krishna's Surabhi cows are decorated with sapphires. Their forms are gold-plated. Their white cheeks have broken the snow-capped mountain peaks' pride. It's so beautiful. The Himalaya mountains are feeling, wow. I pray these Surabhi cows may protect us. In the company of Balaram, Krishna's brother, and his other friends, and his own bodily splendid, covered with the dust raised by the hoofs, the Prince of Vraj, Krishna, daily enjoys the great festival of protecting and milking the cows. With great happiness, he eagerly enjoys pastimes with them. And in the great forests, on the grand hills, the riverbanks of Vraj, let me worship these Surabhi cows. Glory to Padmaganda. Who knows who is Padmaganda?
Mother Yashoda used that milk in the Damodar Leela.
Padmaganda is a special associate of Krishna. He is the bull. Padmaganda, the favorite bull of Krishna, who is the enemy of Baka, whose handsome horns are covered with gold and studded with jewels, whose hoofs are splendid decorated with sapphires, and whose fine neck bears a swinging garland of reddish flowers. Sometimes Lord Krishna feeds the calves, attentively placing small bunches of soft, fresh grass in their mouth, and sometimes he very carefully massages their legs. I yearn to one day see these calves of the Lord Krishna jumping and frolicking in Vrindavan. So this is the connection between the cows, Krishna, and the devotees. Here, Raghunath Das Goswami, which is somewhere there in your altar, that's what he's saying. He's desiring to one day visualize Krishna and his cows in the spiritual world. And in this verse, we come to see how the cow and the bull are being beaten up. And Prabhupada is saying that unless these two are in a joyful mood, the civilization is not in a joyful mood. And that is easily seen. When you go around, you don't see joyful mood. You see people working very hard. The cities with more pollution and noise. More competition, isn't it? Who is the first, will get the first job. Then he can go to America, get a green card, and then get a great job. But then when you go to America and you talk to the IT who are in America, they're saying, we're struggling. We are working so hard. Or in New York. I have to take a break and go to Ujjain for a few weeks. Right? I was discussing with an intimate friend. So when you're in America, the dream place of where this joyful mood, it's not happening there. And then the Americans say, maybe it's happening in China, let's go to China. China now has the baton. Or India, all this construction, wealth is happening. And you look around, you don't see the joyful mood. And that's because the cow and the bull are not in a joyful mood. And many times we don't believe it. We think this is just something mentioned in the page of Bhagavatam. But actually, this is reality. Because unless the cow and the bull are in a joyful mood, the Brahmanas are not in a joyful mood. The Brahmanas are not nurtured. And without the Brahmanas being nurtured, the Brahminical culture cannot perpetuate. So Prabhupada points out in the verse that the first thing that happens is when Brahminical culture deteriorates, the cow and the bull are mistreated. So even though in India there's so much information about the divine cow, the holy cow, India has become the 5th beef exporter. The leaders have forgotten about that. That the cow and the bull should be in a joyful mood, then human civilization and Dharma is protected. If you go down to an economical level, you can just see how in the villages, just by this equation, there's 7 lakh villages in India. They were completely self-sufficient. The British Empire could not touch the villages of India because they were strong. They had food, they had space, they had house, they had autonomy, they had sovereignty. Their members helped each other in every little detail, marrying their daughters. A little crisis came in a family, they all came together. The village was a unit, and the British Empire could not break that system. And in that village, the cow was still in a joyful mood. To speak to a villager about slaughtering a cow was a great sin. He would chase you, he would beat you up to your death. Because the values were so inculcated in his mind that the cow and the bull need to be happy. And so much prosperity was there. Mind you that India today is standing where it is because of its agricultural assets. It's not because of the industrial assets, as we think. India is standing as a superpower and growing at the rate of 7, 8, even 10% a year because of its agriculture. Still, India remains strong with that. But the leaders are forgetting that. And we could have a whole seminar on how, by simple adjustment, India would become the top potency of the globe on a system which was unbeatable. That's India had that system in place. So you may be asking, we are bhaktas, we are preachers. What does it have to do with us? And this we'll discuss tomorrow. What I'll do is, I'll open for questions. so we can interact more. And tomorrow we will discuss the symptoms of this, and we can discuss our mission to this as a preaching movement. Is that okay? Can I take the permission of the authority here and say? Shall we open for questions? Is it more interactive? Can be more interesting? Yeah? Anybody has a question that would like to answer or to put a question? Or a question here? Mic? We need a mic. Here's the mic.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for choosing this very inspiring verse. The purport was also very inspiring, and your presentation, as always, very inspiring. Thank you very much. Prabhuji, could you please elaborate a little more? Of course, as you mentioned that to elaborate on this topic would require many sessions together. But so that we can understand more practically how we have full faith, but so that we can also explain to others more practically that how simply by cow protection the economy and all other things will prosper.
I can give you a long answer, which I cannot now, and I can give you a short answer, which I can do now. And I will give you the short answer. By the time the British Empire came to India, and they were looking at all the Jamuna River, they made one observation. The servants of the landlords had silver and gold from wrist to elbow. That's the short answer. You can imagine the servant is wearing gold. What about the landlords? Gujarat was exporting 3 million pieces of garment per year when the British came, and London, Russia, France together were doing 2 lakhs. One state of India was beating Europe in export of garments. Bengal had so much silk that it was uncountable. The amount of gold was stored in the villages, because by tradition, every marriage you give gold, no? You all know that. The bride gets a lot of gold. So that gold was in the villages. So the gold was distributed, not in one bank, distributed. And these villagers were doing what? Farming and protecting the cows. How? Every villager had 2-3 cows. They were milking. Sometimes these cows slept, as mentioned in the seminar, in their room, in the bedroom. I've seen pictures. Sometimes in the kitchen. The kitchen is like a small goshala. You must have experienced that. So they wash in the morning, wash the cow, they milk. When the cow is a little dry, that cow goes to the village herd. The elderly men and children go with the cows, like Krishna did, to graze in the grazing lands. The government allotted grazing lands for every village. And they were grazing peacefully. So the amount of dairy was big, because everybody could have as much dairy as they want. And let's say you one day, not you, but your brother got married. You're going to focus in a different direction. So your brother got married, he's got a cow, and he has to travel somewhere. He could give his cow to his neighbor, he takes care. When your brother comes back, he takes the cow back. Let's say this gentleman got married one day. No, Krishna, you did not, you full year. His other family members, and they got a debt with the village. So he could pay his debt by offering the cow. So the person took the cow and milked the cow for a certain amount of time. When the debt is finished, the cow is returned. Many kingdoms were making Gavi wars, which was to try to rob the cows of a kingdom. You can see when Arjuna is in the kingdom of Virat, Duryodhana tries to steal the cows. Why? Because when the cows are stolen, the economy crashes and the kingdom crashes. So you can see from every aspect the cow was connected, because the cow was not seen as a commodity. You know what a commodity is? Like soya or iron or copper or soya beans. All these are commodities. Means one thing which you transform into money. The cows in that time, they were family members. And by taking care of them in a joyful mood, the village was prospering. And that was observed in India very closely. Very closely. Your question could be how to practically replicate it today. And the answer can be given in principle in a short answer, but the detail needs to be elaborated. And the principle is very simple. The ratio between cows and humans has to be right. If you have too many cows and few humans, you are struggling. Because one man to take care of so many cows is very difficult. If you have the ratio between cows and the land disproportional, you'll be in trouble. But when the proportion between the land, the cows, and humans is adequate, then the formula works. So what should we do? We should start small, with a good proportion, and everything will flourish very well. And as you get more manpower, you get more cows, you get more land, and it just goes expanding. Not like a man who is lame, who needs support from every side to stand. That's not the picture Prabhupada wanted. Let's say the Indian Prime Minister came here right now. Everybody would stand up and greet him. And he says, I'm very convinced by your cow protection program. Give me a formula. What formula would you give? Dear Prime Minister, for every cow, give me donation, and I'll keep all the cows. Would he accept this proposition? No. The cow will be a liability, not a source of wealth. So the model has to be right. The business model, but it's possible. Today it's possible. Many devotees are doing it. Some devotees from the IT, they left the IT and they start taking care of cows just near Delhi. And just by selling cow dung, they're becoming rich. They put up a composting factory for gardens, specialized. And then first class ghee for this person, first class everything. And they're making so much. And they're keeping the cows very nicely. There are different models. So the model, the detail needs a lot of elaboration. But the principle is the ratio must be right. And it's a triangle, but in the middle, there must be one ingredient. Do you know what it is? Who said that? Courage. Louder. Krishna. Louder. Krishna. Everybody. Krishna. More louder. Krishna. I can't hear you. Krishna. Krishna. Krishna has to be in the center. If he is not in the center, the triangle will not work. It will fail. And Krishna takes help of his brother with the plow. You have him right there. Because with the plow he can do the farming. And then the farming and the cows together pleases Lakshmi Devi, and she's blessing you. You don't need to go to a Lakshmi Devi temple. Lakshmi Devi will come to you. Alright? So philosophically, you can understand the connection between Krishna and the Bhagavatam, Dharma, the cows, yoga and bhakti. That line is fully described. But we need to be expert how to present this. Because today, and this will be tomorrow, the cow is presented as a problem, global warming. Isn't it? But that's because they don't understand the position of the cow. That's why they're having all those difficulties. Okay? Another question? Another point, we had some hands over here. Mataji, have a question right from the Mataji side, please. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the wonderful lecture. My question is, I come from a village only.
Hare Krishna.
I spent my entire childhood among the cows and farming and all, rivers. And it was full of natural environment. So then gradually we have seen that farmers, they started selling their lands because of lands they used to have many cows and bulls, and we used to have a lot of ghee, money and all. So, but the root cause why they have started selling their lands is, the root cause is we don't get enough rains. It's been years that even this year also we didn't get enough rains. So that's why, due to lack of water, the lands they are getting bad and all. So what to do?
What to do? It's a great, thank you so much. Thank you for your experience. We should record a little interview with you, narrating your experience in the village, your beautiful experience. I'm sure.
Actually, it's like very, it's, when I see, because I went to the city and started working, studying. When I came back, I've seen the land which they have sold out, they have now converted into a complete jungle. Literally, people from around all the other villages, they have started coming and constructing the homes, houses. So those were the same places where we had learned cycling. We used to go running and all. So it's like very painful to see it. I don't even go back.
I can share your pain. This huge, giant, eating up all the lands and putting concrete trees and taking over. And that's called development. That's called GPD. Your question is what to do. Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, he just posted 2 days ago that once there was many droughts in Andhra, and they were trying to make many yagyas in the temples, but it didn't work. And Prabhupada went there, he made Harinam Sankirtan, and it rained. And this became a headline in the newspaper. Swamiji brings rain. Again, a connection between the earth, the Brahmans. Yagya makes rains. And rains make grains. And grains make offerings for the Lord. Becomes prasadam, which nurtures your brain. And then you could say, and then you reign as the top religion because we have so much nutritious food to give. So bhakti starts with pure food. Consciousness starts with pure food. Your question, what to do? Harinam Sankirtan is what to do. We have to have padayatras everywhere doing Harinam Sankirtan. Book distribution. But we must understand the farmers. Because you go there and you say, Prabhu, surrender to Krishna. And he says, okay, my son took IT, he is into IT, let him go to the temple and become brahmachari. Here you are. This is the root cause. Because the grandfathers thought, let's educate our children. Let them become IT because they have a better life. Here you are. And someone more intelligent said, no IT, become a Krishna Bhakta, brahmachari, and here you are. That's a good choice. So, my father was a villager, and he wanted to be a farmer. But his grandmother said, This Baba has some intelligence, let him study. He said, no, 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 I want to be farmer. You just do the test. And he took first place. Very unlucky for him. Because, oh, first place, now you go. And he went so far that he went up to Cambridge in the UK and did his PhD in Cambridge, came to India, to Iskcon. But his heart is in the village, is in the farm. So he has a farm. And we are helping him out. So what to do, Yagya? What to do? Tell the farmers a system where they can plant water. We can plant water. With the right system, we can plant water.
Water harvesting?
Water harvesting. Not by collecting water, by planting trees and using the trees again, mulching the trees, they give water to the soil slowly. And you can harvest your crops even in dry areas. I've seen it myself. Semi-arid area, cactus is growing. And you cut the cactus, put them down, and they give water to the crops. So we can plant water by planting trees, by agroforestry, by many, we can have seminars about this. So Iskcon should start an outreach program where we give bhakti and also give little something for the farmers, organic systems. Then we buy their produce back and they have some Shakti to continue and not sell the lands to become concrete jungles. So this is the future. Harinam Sankirtan, education with some basis where the beauty of India, which is the villages, can again thrive. Who doesn't have memories of that village where you knew everybody, you're running around and free space, so much opulence, clean rivers, children are happy, they're going everywhere. Space, that's opulence. Makan, that's opulence. Isn't it? You can give it. So much fruit you can give, right? But now you get your salary from Apple, a bunch of dollars. You giving? Prabhu, I got extra dollars. Let me give it, please. Take. Is that happening? Sometimes some pious souls were giving to His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami. I could see. They're coming with their piles of dollars. Says, Maharaj, I'm surrendering to you this as my yagya to you. I've seen so many come and give to him. That's very good. But it doesn't happen generally, only for very pious people. But if you have an excess production, what do in the village? You give. Because that's the nature of that activity. It's giving nutrition. When you keep the cow and the bull happy, there's so much makan. Krishna is throwing makan in each other. He's giving to the monkeys to show that there's such a big opulence there. Maybe you can take one more. Is there any more? Or is it one more question? Okay, one more. Is that all right?
Seems to be a very long process.
Yes, it is a long process. Well, just like if you plant a tree which takes 100 years to grow, you can't expect it to be full tomorrow. But if you don't plant it, you never have it. So slowly we lost the process. Now slowly we have to gain the process. Because the tree is very good. Yes?
Hare Krishna. Thank you for this very enlightening lecture. So, as you were discussing that how people, all of us, want to work in IT and this, I have a job which actually I have a job into which I am 5 years from I'm working now, and it took me to villages, and that's where I realized that how much that village life we were lacking. Actually, all this time CBSE schools, engineer, doing MTech and everything, it took me a lot while when I realized that, and when I came to Krishna consciousness and this, and I read books and that how our culture is important and how I have to respect that, how that village life is there. And having said that, there are many changes which I actually observed that how our villages have been infiltrated with certain impurities, I feel, because people have that mentality where there are chara where the cows graze. Our mentality to I think earn more, to grow more. Somewhere down the line, it took us to just see things like you said, commodity, like seeing cow use or keep cow until and unless it's giving you milk, and the point it's not giving, just because we see that cows are being put everywhere. And strange was when I saw it in villages also. In cities it was common, on the roads they are keeping it. So maybe it will take a long time, but as a devotee, what could be a immediate thing? Because when I see that yes, our villages are the basis and we have to connect to the villages and the mentality there is changing and how that life is degrading, it seems more difficult to actually go to that.
An important point is that the material world is not our place. We are passengers here, and hopefully for a good destination. We are hoping that we can catch the train of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada back to Goloka Vrindavan. And there are many, many captains on that train. And His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami is certainly one of the most special captains in that train. Or sometimes the analogy of a ship is given. Prabhupada has a ship and he's crossing the ocean of material existence. So in a sense, our business is not to fix, because this is Kali Yuga, and the main mentality is the four main problems in Kali Yuga: killing the cows, meat eating, gambling, intoxication, and illicit connection with women. These four infiltrates everywhere. And because of that, we don't realize, but tomorrow we'll see, that all the energy goes into that only: consumerism and defense. The big minds of the planet are concentrated in consumerism and defense. Nuclear wars, nuclear weapons, the state government, that government, and shopping centers. These are the two temples in our present time: the military power and the consumerism, which is the four principles: defending, and the other three, which is consumerism. So this mentality is spread everywhere, including the village. So we have the mission to enlighten society, saying that's not what your life is about. Your life is supposed to have a different meaning. And that's what you do when you give a Bhagavad Gita. So if the villager is enlightened about what's the dharma of life, he will adjust. And just like you could say, Ujjain has millions of people, what's the use of having one temple? You are the use. The congregation is the use. All the visitors. You start slowly, and gradually you have a revolution coming. Is that all right? We'll end here. I know His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaja extends, but I'm a junior, so I respect the time. But thank you all very, very much for your patience. I will ask your blessings that I can still do service for our society and be a resident of Sri Mayapur Dham and have your association more and more. And if you do agree, I want you to raise your hands and say Haribol 3 times. Haribol! Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Gaura Premanandi Haribol.
His grace, Kalakanta Prabhu.